Hello to my earth signs Capricorn, Taurus and Virgo. Welcome to the Scorpio full moon. You'll find the timestamps for your rising signs listed below. Hello Capricorn Rising, how you doing? Welcome to your reading for the Scorpio full moon. How was eclipse season for you? Are you all right? Can you work with whatever was brought and shoved right in front of your face for you to look at finally? Were you able to find little moments, quiet spots to heal from that or to heal with that? I hope that you have. I'm getting there. I'm on the way. And we've got a moon that we can trust. The Scorpio full moon coming up on the 24th of April. It'll be at 9:51 a.m. when it's exactly full. So the night of the 23rd or the night of the 24th is fine to go out and look at it and to be amongst it and to feel it. It won't be eclipsed. It will be trustworthy and it will take what you feel and allow you to feel it and hold you. It's a Scorpio moon, so it's going to be intense. It's going to be very emotional. It's going to be really deep. But at long last, I'm not sure if you feel the same, but I've been feeling almost kind of limited in my emotional capacity over the past month or so. I've been really up and really down and really up and really down, but there's been no break. There's been no release. It feels pent up for me. So I am looking forward to Wednesday and I am looking forward to letting it all hang out. So I hope that you can too. I'm releasing these horoscopes on a really special day. So hopefully I'm releasing them on the 21st. Sunday. You don't have to watch them straight away. It doesn't matter. What I'm talking about is a conjunction between two planets that haven't come together for the last 13 or 14 years. It's pretty special. It's between Jupiter and Uranus. So Jupiter is hope. It's growth. It's optimism. And Uranus is rebellion. It's revolution. And so when these two feelings come together, they often will bring about some over-exertion or kind of immense feeling of like changing things up for the better, looking at a certain structure or certain system and finding the ineffective parts of it and moving it. Shouting from the rafters that things need to change, having that change happen with the back of Jupiter that is really, really, really protective. So the last time that this happened was in 2010 into 2011. So the first conjunction happened, I think, in June of 2010. Then there was another one in September of that year. Then another one in December through to January of 2011. It was something about their retrograde cycles. So the planets came together, then they moved backwards from our perspective, but they came together again and again and then again. So when I think about my life in 2010 into 2011, it was really, really juicy. It was really fruitful. It was really optimistic. It was really rebellious too. My life went in a certain direction that it hadn't gone down before, and there was a lot of confidence that I could glean from my own ideas. My output, my creativity, my work was being received in a really, really visible way, and it had me shed a lot of feelings of fear or shame. And I really moved with it. This is all in retrospect too, because back then I wasn't so savvy with the inner workings of the planets. They were a part of my spirituality, but I didn't study them. So in retrospect, looking at this moment right now that we're having today, that will lead us into the next chapter of our lives, the next 14 years, and also kind of thinking about this moment in time and reflecting back to 2010, 2011, and thinking about what started for me, and thinking about the great crescendo that happened from that vantage point, and thinking about that moment in time being over, and being over in a way that makes me feel proud that I did it, that I really stuck to my guns and I did as much as I could to follow that impulse. Maybe you might be feeling something similar. On your birth chart, Capricorn Rising, it was Pisces and Aries that occurred in. So there was something about the way that you voice yourself, your ability to tell stories, and also your ancestry, your home life too. So perhaps you were going through a period where you were sort of kicking back from what was offered to you or what was given to you, and you were sort of going out there and making your own way during this time. And you thought to yourself, wow, I never thought that someone like me from where I came from could experience this amount of bounty. But it comes from this place of rebellion too. It comes from the punk rocker inside of you too. Right now, this conjunction that we're about to experience today, moving forward into the next 14 years of our life, is hitting your 5th house of your self-expression, of your artistry. So I wonder where it will take you. And I wonder how this rebellious spirit, being cushioned by Jupiter's hope and Jupiter's optimism, is going to help you realize your dreams moving forward. It's a really special moment, and I'm trying to find the best way to kind of describe it to you. I hope I'm doing it justice. I'll get to the moon in a minute, but I just wanted to sort of flag this because we've just entered Taurus season. You know, the sun has just moved its way into Taurus, and then there's that conjunction, and a lot of astrologers have been waiting for it. They do think back to 2010, 2011. They're thinking further back to 97, to 83, to 41 was the last time that Uranus and Jupiter were conjunct in Taurus. So that's a long time to think back to and to try and piece together the similarities of the current moment into this one. Let's do it really personally. Let's take this moment as a little prayer, just you and I, and think about your journey, think about your life, think about what was egging you on back in 2010 and 2011, and how you can refresh that feeling, and how that feeling is specifically for you in your really fertile, creative house, the Taurus parts of you. It's exciting. Now, in direct opposition to this, on the 24th, we will have a full moon in Scorpio. And so Scorpio for you, Capricorn Rising, is your 11th house. It's how you connect to others. It's your sense of belonging in community, your humanitarian spirit. And so we know that Scorpio is a fixed water sign that feels things so deeply and does build up some ice over the top of that feeling to protect themselves. Thinking about our humanitarian spirit at this time, thinking about the ways in which the world is operating and the pain that is so viscerally felt across the globe right now, the fear. Vulnerable people are in jeopardy right now. We know this. And so maybe after the eclipses and the violence and the aggression that we've just lived through for the past month, hopefully this full moon can bring a bit of tenderness. You know, Scorpio is a sign that is ruled by Mars too, you know, so there is kind of a combative feeling here, but I like it for you, Capricorn Rising, that if it's been difficult for you to connect with the emotion lately, that this moon might encourage some of that. So yeah, that's what we're sort of working with at this time. Big changes are occurring, aren't they? I actually have 5 cards here that I've pulled out to describe the tarot of the sky to you. So maybe I'll just bring them out and we can have a little look. But they are all 5s, 555. I'm not a numerologist, but I do know that 555 means change. of which we're all craving. But the moon is activating the grief card, the Five of Cups. This is those times when you sort of feel the loss really sincerely. It's a moment that we get to wear black, and we get to take this moment in time to grieve our losses. It's really encouraging because there's 2 cups at the back here. They're not knocked over, they're still present, they're still waiting to be used. There's still connection there, but this is the moment to grieve that. And so relating to the 11th house, I can see that working pretty sincerely. The other 5 is the 5 of Pentacles over in Taurus. This is where the sun is. You can see there's that feeling of not belonging, of not being allowed sanctuary, not being allowed a safe space to heal. That's really powerful right now too. Brings a tear to the eye. The emotions are, for sensitive people, you're not weak if you're not coping at the minute. Capricorn Rising, you're strong and you are able, but this is a lot for us all to compartmentalize at present. And if only we could do more, if only we could, if only our voices were heard. I mean, that's something that really feels quite obvious at the moment. There's this frustration that people are pleading and trying to express themselves, and it's falling on deaf ears. I'm going to have one feeling really abandoned. The other 5 is in Aquarius. So Pluto is at 2 degrees of Aquarius. They're about to station retrograde next month. So they're about to move their way back slowly into Capricorn, into your first house. If you remember, I've been sort of priming you for September of this year into January of next year as that final hurrah of Pluto's destruction in the first. So we'll deal with that as the year goes by. But the sun and the moon are in square, so in pressure with Pluto and Aquarius. So topics around your access to coin, your resources, your finances, and how that's being restructured. This moon and its emotion might be bringing some stuff up for you as well. And so you can see in this card, there's the option to drop it. If this is anxiety, it's so easy to say, oh, just drop it, babe. Yeah, love and light. No, it's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there is a moment in time, there has to be, and there is for all of us, to drop it when we're being really cruel to ourselves and when we're thinking to ourselves, you are a failure. You can't do it. You've got nothing to prove. How dare you? That is something that we can be a bit bitchy with, and we can be like, you know what? Fuck off. Shut up. I've had it. I'm not listening to you. I feel for you, Capricorn Rising, that there is going to be big change in all of these topics for you. What I really love is that if we're describing this moment as a moment of hope and it's lighting up the 5th house of your creativity and your self-expression, that's a pretty awesome 14 years to look forward to. What's happening in the outside world, what's happening in the economy, what's happening in the way that things seem to be costing more and more and more is one thing. Your creative spirit is another thing, and your self-expression being specific to your life is powerful. But you might cry, and that's all right. Like, cry. I look forward to it. I can't wait. I can't wait for this full moon. I'm going to bawl my eyes out. I'm going to get you some cards. Can you hold on to that hope as well, Capricorn Rising? Like, the rebellious spirit from 2010 to now that had you sort of like kick back or sort of not reinvent yourself, but sort of ground yourself in like your shit, your steez. You're sort of like, yeah, this is what I'm capable of. That's what it felt like that's what it feels like for me, 2010, 2011 for you. You've sort of said to yourself, this is what I'm effing made of. Who cares where I came from? Who cares what's expected of me? This is what I believe in. And so now that's been established. You know, you're not your parents. You're not your family. You're not their expectations or their fears. Actually, it's probably more of a thing, really, when in a oppressive family environment, that oppression often comes from fear. But this story in the astrology is telling me that you did really well. And now you can take this new chapter with a bit of confidence in your individuality, in the way that you're expressing yourself, your artwork specifically. You know, I use that word very broadly because I know that not everyone thinks that they're an artist. I think that everyone is an artist. We've just got different mediums. What's really beautiful to me, can you see there's a king and a queen in this coupling right now? Someone is really intelligent, really all over it of the mind. They're really strategic and they're really good at scheduling and sort of like getting people from here to there to there to here. They're really adept with their mental faculty, really good, very intelligent, good, quick thinker, can strategize. And they've been training in that too. The other person that I have here is someone really connected to the earth, connected to principles of growth and regeneration. They're really good at sustainability, and they're really good at like hugging. They give great hugs. They're working really in such great synergy together. And what I really like about this is they could be people in your life that you're sort of like, oh, that's them and that's them. They could be you and somebody else. They could be two sides of you individually as well. Sometimes the court cards can represent people in our life. So that's just one thing to register. But whoever they are, they've done such an incredible job at getting to this point right now. And so maybe there's some sort of relationship that I can see here about someone's like intellect and someone's grand design, grand plans being aided by someone with practical skills. And also someone's practical skills being aided by someone's innovation too. Like, okay, that's what you've got. Amazing. We could do this too with that. That's awesome. I can see that this can grow in this way. We can strategize this. Whatever's going on with these two, it looks to me like there's a moment that's coming up. It looks like a bit of a journey. It looks like a trip. It looks like leaving some place, and this doesn't have to be physically. It feels like moving from this to this, because here the weather is clearer and here we can think more strategically. We've got actually room to think. We're not so labored with the concerns of finances or other things that worry us, you know. I mean, that's one thing about being a human being at present, is there's little room to fantasize or to strategize or to get to the drawing board, because we're all just sort of latched to whatever rhythm we're in right now, because our emotional systems are pretty stretched. There's not much room for growth. This looks to me, Capricorn Rising, that this journey is much needed, and that this trip will have you possibly come back with a fresher perspective once you've had that break away. But it definitely does feel like a break away. It feels like a stopgap in whatever has been growing at present, in order to recalibrate, to reconfigure, and then to move on. I wonder if, when I've been saying things to you like, oh, don't have to be an artist if you don't think you are, there's something about that's important to sort of it's important to bring back into the room to close out this reading. We spend our entire lives being judged or being assessed, particularly in creative fields, because, well, I think in every field, the creative field feels more personal because the output or the skill, the rehearsal, the product that we're sort of have developed after laboring away at it comes from a really emotional space. It comes from somewhere very vulnerable and very private. And so if that vulnerable private space has been assessed and rejected, or it can go either way. You either have this overwhelming sense of rejection all the time, or you've received some accolades and then you're worried that if you don't over produce or over deliver, then you're worth nothing. I mean, that's the Capricorn Rising's mission in this life, is to realize that by doing nothing, you are still just so worthy of love. But creatively, it can stop some people from considering themselves to be an artist or considering themselves to be a creative, because they're not comfortable with that amount of rejection or that amount of public perception or public assessment of their private world, their soul's offering. I think that Uranus and Jupiter, I keep on vacillating between Uranus and Uranus, you know what I mean. I think that there's something of a rebellion that you're being encouraged to follow, insofar as the way that you creatively express yourself. I think that your life is going to feel a lot more creatively abundant in this new chapter. That rebel that we can hold really close and be so thankful for all those years ago in 2010 and 2011, that had you stand on your own 2 feet and separate your pathway, put your eyes on the prize. We can thank them for that moment, and we can see what they've got to offer us in our creativity now. Yeah. I like it. That's nice. I've written down all of these transits. Forgive me, I haven't mentioned all of them. Let me know, Capricorn Rising, if you like my reading style, or if you prefer more specifics in the astrology, or you prefer more tarot, if the messages are hitting home or not. Put a scorpion in the comments in honor of the Scorpio full moon. But yeah, I'm open to feedback, as much as I just went through all of that stuff about being assessed. I would like to know that my process is helpful or not, because I do have a process, and you can see here it's all sort of very diligently sort of written down. But sometimes I just, in my 15 minutes, go somewhere else. But that felt nice for me. I hope it feels good for you. Let me know either way. If I've not read your birth chart before and you'd like me to, I draw them. They look like this, and you can make an appointment for me to read that to you at my website, umaruby.com. You can also pick a truth, growth, magic, love, or femme reading. If I have read your chart before and you'd like to see me again, we'll look at the current transits, how they're affecting your chart specifically, and we'll draw some tarot together too and read them to answer your questions. I always accept tips over at buymeacoffee.com/umaruby. The link is in the description below. I'll be with you, and we'll talk about the Taurus new moon in 2 weeks. So yeah, speaking of habits that can't be broken, I'll give you a reading in 2 weeks. That's fine. I'm doing it. I want to find some movement with this work, but I'll find it, I think, on the journey. Thanks you very much for your company, Capricorn Rising. I'll zip it now. Enjoy the moon. Cry, cry, cry. Go travel. Enjoy the journey. I look forward to hearing what happens moving forward, and where your rebel has been waiting for you. Hello, Taurus Rising. Welcome to your reading for the Scorpio full moon. How are you? Are you all right? How has eclipse season treated you? How has the last month been? How has that urgency to address our unconscious wounding, how has that been for you? Has it been fruitful? Has those pain points that showed up sort of in some ways pretty urgently, was it worth it? And are you finding active strategies in order to process that unearthing? That's the thing about the astrology. Sometimes these moments happen, these like moments of impact, and then it's the aftermath, it's the aftercare that really makes the difference. It's sort of like, oh, right, I can finally name this. Wow, this is something that I haven't looked at for so long, and it's been hurting me for so long. Now I know, what great revelation. Now I'm going to take active steps to continue the healing process. I hope that you're doing so, Taurus Rising, because all of this stuff in the 12th house, remember, the unconscious reality, the sort of hidden chambers, things that maybe have been a bit buried, that can be quite confronting, what we've just lived through this last month. And I'm really looking forward to hearing that you are enjoying the healing process. That's what Chiron wants us to do, and that's what has been infiltrating a lot of this astrology for this last month. Now, finally, we have a moon that we can trust. It's in Scorpio on the 24th of April, so at 9:51 a.m. if you're down here in Australia with me. The evening of the 23rd, the evening of the 24th is also prime time to actually physically go out underneath the moon and to be with it. This is what I encourage everyone to do, no matter what sign you are, no matter what you believe, whatever, is that this full moon in a very safe environment, physically, it's prime time to get out underneath it and to feel it. Because the instability of the eclipses has had us a bit mistrustful of the emotions. It's had us a little bit mistrustful of our body's reaction. The moon in astrology can represent our body. It's where we came from. It's our physicality, how we were taught to emotionally regulate in this life from our caregivers. And so when that's untrustworthy, as eclipses can sometimes prove to be, it can be worrying because we're sort of waiting for that moment of release. If you follow the moon cycles, you're probably really looking forward to this Scorpio full moon because it's trustworthy. And so there might be a lot of deep emotions. There might be a lot of tears that come out. In tarot, when I look at the point of the galaxy that the moon is triggering, it's the 5 of Cups. You know, so it's our grief card. It is the moment where we get to wear our black and we get to feel it all. Finally. So I trust that you're in safe company. I trust that your boundaries are really well in place, Taurus Rising, and I trust that you'll take some time to be with this moon specifically. We know that Scorpio is your 7th house, so it's your house of the other, the way that you relate to other people. So whatever you need to get off your chest, you tell the moon. It'll take it. You can trust the moon. I'm giving these horoscopes on a very special day, Taurus Rising, and probably very special for you specifically, although for all of us. But there is a conjunction, which means 2 planets moving into the same space in the zodiac, the same degree in Taurus. And these 2 planets haven't come together for about 13 years or 14 years. I'm talking about Jupiter and I'm talking about Uranus. Now, Jupiter brings hope. Jupiter brings optimism and expansion. Encouragement is another word too. Uranus brings revolution, brings rebellion. Uranus is the planet that sees ahead, sees the problems, the current structures that they are living through, and finds the language and the innovation. And this is the key word too, innovation. How can we change this in order to flourish? When thinking about Uranus, it's an easy way to remember the definition is just by thinking about the history of when it was discovered. So before Uranus was discovered with a telescope, the human consciousness thought that Saturn was the outer limit, was the end point, the barrier. You know, that's why all those connotations around barriers and containers come with Saturn. But then in the 1800s, they found Uranus, and it was a revelation. It was really unexpected. And so all of that revelation, unexpected definitions can be related to how we read that planet in astrology. The last time that Jupiter and Uranus came together was in 2010 through to 2011. It was a very specific moment in time, but they actually came together 3 times over that period. The first was June of 2010 in Aries at 0 degrees of Aries too, so the beginning moment. And then it moved back into Pisces. Both of them, Uranus and Jupiter, they moved backwards in their retrograde motion, but they came together again in September of 2010, and then again in December through to January of 2011. So when thinking about an opportune moment to rebel, when thinking about your sense of punk rocker, thinking about the way that you do things differently or the way that you see the world in a different way, and also thinking about the houses that Pisces and Aries take up, which is your 11th house of humanity, or your good friends and your sense of community and belonging, and also that unconscious realm again. This rebelliousness has made its way to your first house. So it's a long 14-year story, and I'm sure that many things have happened for you, and I'm sure that you can probably think back to that period in time, and there might be stories that you could tell me about what expanded for you or what changed. Perhaps you're on a certain track in life, and then come 2010, 2011, things really did a hook turn, but it was for the better. Ultimately, in the long run. Flash forward to 2024, Jupiter and Uranus are coming together at 21 degrees in Taurus. So this is your first house. This is your soul's potential. This is your individual spirit. And so have you been feeling a bit rebellious lately? And how are you going to take those feelings, those revolutionary calls to action, how are you going to take them with you for the next 14 years of your life and have them play out? It's really exciting. When I think about my life in 2010 and 2011, I'll tell you another time, but it's so obvious to me what was happening as far as my optimism, my growth, the pathways that were laid out before me. I, without hesitation, chose to follow them, and it colored my life for the 14 years to follow, and I got to see parts of the world I never thought I would ever get to see. I got to do things and experience things and express myself in ways that I never thought was possible from someone like me and my background. That doesn't have to be so specific for you in that exact story, but I wonder if there's something that you can retell to me about that time and what chapter is ending for you from all that time ago and what chapter is now beginning. That's the thing about conjunctions. It sort of calls an end to the previous cycle, but then it begins a new one. And this one's very personal for you, Taurus Rising. It's in the first house. So we think hope, we think growth, we think encouragement, and we think rebellion. How are you going to put those topics to the best use that you can? I like it. A couple of hours after that happens, on the 21st, your guiding light, the planet Venus, the planet of art and creativity and beauty and love, is going to be exactly conjunct with Chiron in Aries. So there's been a lot of heat in this pain, in this excavation. There's been a lot of jarring moments with the eclipses. Venus is here to provide the ointment for you. I'm going to be tracking Venus for you in the lead up to the Taurus new moon as well, which is on the 8th of May. I won't bore you with all of the details, but there's some great things that are happening. The moon happens, the full moon in Scorpio, on the 24th of this month, so we're going to honor that. We're going to look into our 7th house, actually, the place where we relate to other people, and I'd really like you to excavate some depth, because it's all well and good to be a rebel and to sort of kick back and to push away and to revolutionize. It's another thing too to maintain a sense of openness and connection with those that you love. And this is the part of the life that the moon is directly calling to. It's also, as it happens, happening in a pretty harsh square, so there's pressure with Pluto in Aquarius in your 10th house, where you're being publicly perceived. This is the other journey that I've been describing to you, 20 years in the making, that will pulverize the way that you're publicly perceived, reforming into something else. These topics just seem too huge to be like, yeah, there you go, suck it. This is an ongoing process, Taurus rising. It's just at this moon, there's pressure between yourself, your loved ones, and what you're publicly putting out there. You're probably putting out there something that has to do with the urgency that we're all feeling about the current systems needing to change and needing to be, power needing to be repurposed and re-geared to benefit more than the select few. But I wonder if there's something at this moon that might be feeling a bit agitated. So in your relating to other people, let's bring out the tarot too, because they might be helping me with this. We got the grief card for the moon, right? The sun is over here in Taurus in the 5 of Pentacles, so that it's a hard card to look at present, isn't it? It's really difficult to look at right now. These folks don't feel that they're welcome for sanctuary. These folks feel that they're cut out of something, that they're not allowed, nor invited, nor required in this space. And it's really painful. The card that's speaking to Pluto up in Aquarius is the 5 of Swords. And this is actually probably a moment of sharpness that I'm enjoying with these 3 5s. I'm not a numerologist, but 555 does tend to mean change. If you ever see that number on the clock, or if your battery's charged to 55%, it's a nice little message from somewhere that reminds us of the importance of change. The 5 of Swords speaks to an argumentative approach and a moment to really set down weapons and to disengage from a fight that seems to be escalating with no outcome other than just more violence. And that seems pretty hectic to sort of labor into this reading, Taurus rising. It might not be sort of sitting with you so specifically. I just wanted to mention that at this moon, because emotions will be high. So it might not be you yourself, but you might be coming into contact with people that are like, wow, I've been just the cat's out of the bag now. I'm just feeling it all. I haven't been able to look at it or feel it for the last month, and now I just can't stop. Sometimes you cry and you just can't stop. I mean, I encourage that's good as long as you're in a safe environment, but like, you're not the only one, is what I'm saying, Taurus rising. There are others that are feeling this like wellspring, this dam's about to give. So in that vulnerability, in that rawness, there might be some more caustic sort of interactions maybe coming from you. And if they are, you can check yourself. You can register that. Keep an open heart at this time. That's the only way we're going to get through any of this, is to be available to love, to be available to being held, and to being met with sensitivity and met with gentleness. The day after the full moon, Mercury will station direct, which is another great big sigh of relief for us all, Taurus Rising. We can finally get some stuff going, get some shit done. Some of that confusion can start to move again. It's been really unfair that Mercury has been retrograde through all of these eclipses. It's not going to be anymore, so that we can look forward to as well. One more bit of the astrology. I won't labour you with the rest. I've written down a lot, but then on the 29th of April, Venus, your guiding light, will be entering Taurus. So you're going to have your team player on home base. So I would look forward to a bit of an influx of love and connection. 29th of April, think about that date. Think about who you're letting in. Think about how you're engaging in your Taurian self. How are you engaging in love and in pleasure and in connection? How is that informing your artistry too? I like this rebellious side of you, Taurus Rising. It really suits you. I think that the Jupiter influence of it all is for hope and for encouragement and for expansion. So the voice that you're finding, put it into places that has your growth show and shine. Because what I can see in these cards that I've pulled has been from somewhere of dissociation, like a sort of inability to feel and to connect, probably talking about eclipse season with those untrustworthy moons, probably a lot of meditation, but a lot of like, I'm just keeping a lid on this as long as I can. Don't know what this is, but I'm holding it. That's turned into some sort of passionate defense. That's turned into perhaps a little bit of guardedness and a little bit of fire. That's turning into a feeling of like stoicism's the wrong word. This card says valor, so we'll go with that. We'll go with the word valor. That's a nice one. When I think of the Seven of Wands, I think of kind of like, you know how I was saying like defensiveness with the five, like it's sort of like, it feels kind of like combative in a way that's like in practice perhaps for something to come up. So maybe thinking about these conversations with loved ones, or thinking about the way that your rebellion is sort of growing and rising, conditioning, sure, but then there's that valor is something. It's sort of, stoic is the wrong word, but it's sort of like there's a bravery here that's I'm in a place, Taurus Rising, forgive me, I've lost myself. I'm in a place by the end of this reading where I trust your conviction, but it's taken some practice and it's taken some sort of I guess like conditioning is a good word. And I don't wish for, what am I trying to say? Let me get really specific just to close this one out, because it is emotional, and doubtless to say you don't have to get it all right at this full moon. I'd encourage you to feel it, absolutely. I'd encourage you to really let it out, and you might get it wrong here and there. I guess what I'm saying is I can't expect you to sort of have it, pitch perfect, but maybe it's just the intent that we've got to really solidify here. There's so many topics that I could sort of draw from to use specifics. One, I'm going to bring into the room, and it might not resonate for you at all, but it's just an example of how our passion is being stoked and sort of jabbed right now, and perhaps in conflict with folks that we are in loving relationships with, or the way that we are sort of publicly voicing ourselves. It's very specific. It might not ring true for you, but sure, I'm sure you can read between the lines. The trans community across the world at present is going through a reckoning, and it's very similar to the reckoning that the gay community went through in the 60s and 70s. With further visibility and further rights, there's always a pushback from folks that would have you subjugated, and there's a sort of silencing, and there's a new activation of prejudice that is being voiced by more and more and more people, perhaps also people that wouldn't identify as particularly homophobic or transphobic. However, at this moment in time, there is a retaliation from those within the community and those that are actively oppressing the community. Now, this isn't to say that that's understandable, because it's not. I think that the rhetoric that is being feeded into the public arena at present is really damaging. And just to get politically for a tiny second, forgive me, you can turn it off if you're not interested. We're dealing with a very tiny majority of the planet's population. We're dealing with like 4% of a population. It's small, it's a minority in a true sense. And so the conditioning of the passion, this sort of like, getting one's eggs in one basket and thinking to oneself, okay, this is how do I act, how do I retaliate against this? I believe that it will grow into something like valor and something like a conviction and a pride is maybe the wrong. You go with me. It's hard, and this is just one tiny slice of what the consciousness is contending with right now, and the polarized sort of violent words that folks are using, and the righteousness that is sort of growing as well in the voices of the oppressor. And it's coming from a space of fear too, and that we must respect. But there's limitations to respecting fear and putting up with abuse. And so we sometimes get it wrong in the retaliation. There sometimes can be a defensive, prickly, violent outburst. It will turn into valor, because the more of us that can stand hand in hand and recognize the fact of biology that trans people exist, that's never going away. Fact. Moving forward through this period of disgusting dissent, it will feel something like valor. Now, that was a really long story, and I don't know if it hit you directly or not. It doesn't have to, but you can see what I'm relating that story to your own story too. And I believe in the rebel. I believe in revolution. I believe in the fight too. I also believe in fucking poised dignity and grace. When I think about my queer ancestors, I always think about the queens who just were graceful to the end. Hold my bag. So I'm going to leave you with that, Taurus Rising. I hope that was a message that sort of sits somewhere in your experience, and maybe just by me saying it, it provides you with a little bit of relief as far as what you've been feeling around that topic. But as I said, that's just one sliver of the other injustices that we are witnessing across the planet Earth at present. Grace. I've been listening to a lot of Toni Morrison too. That woman has a lot to teach us about grace. That's it. I'll shut up. If If you'd like me to read your birth chart, I draw them. They look like that. You can make your appointment at umaruby.com. I'd be delighted to meet you if I haven't already. If you'd like me to read for you again, and I've read your birth chart before, head to my website and choose a magic, truth, growth, love, or femme reading. I'll look at the current transits in the sky, how they relate to your chart specifically, and we'll pull some tarot together too, and get psychic. I'll be with you, and I'll speak about the Taurus new moon coming up. So that was a lot of info. As always, put a scorpion in the comments in honor of this Scorpio full moon if you're still here with me, Taurus Rising. Thank you for hearing me out. Thank you for being here. I am with you, as I know that you're with me too. I look forward to this moon. I look forward to crying, and I look forward to you telling me all about it. Much love. Hello, Virgo Rising. Welcome to your reading for the Scorpio full moon. How are you? Are you okay? How has the last month been? How are the eclipses been? How has that urgency to unearth and to look at and to hopefully take steps to start healing been for you? It's been fraught. Hopefully you've been able to feel the encouragement though through this time. Hopefully you've been able to hook onto little rituals, little moments that have kept your energy safe, and you've been able to find kind of like a regrounding in your position with those that you love, the people that hold you, and in that finessed seventh house, amidst the container, the protection of Saturn in that place, you've been able to let the love in. If it's been difficult for you, Virgo Rising, full love, full respect, full trust that this full moon in Scorpio will probably encourage a bit of a reconnection with our emotional selves, with our feeling. It's a moon that we can trust. So lovely to have a moon that we can trust. I think if you get sort of in sync with the moon as the years go by, whenever eclipse season occurs, that feeling of instability can jolt our capacity to emotionally regulate, can't it? It can have us feeling sort of out of touch or out of step or out of rhythm with the cycles of our body. But moving on up and through and ahead, this moon in Scorpio is one that we can trust. As deep and as intense as it's going to be. So let me explain a little bit to you about what I know of Scorpio. Whenever I think about the sign, I always imagine really thick ice, really thick, like ice that's sort of like deep freeze, something that you can walk on or that you have to drill through in order to fish, like a big carapace, big thick footage of ice over a very, very, very deep lake. Scorpio is a fixed sign, so there's something about sort of reliability and rigidity. And so when relating those topics to emotions, you can see there's that sort of like protective shield, that protective barrier. And it's not because Scorpios don't feel, in fact, they feel everything. It's just that they've found strategies to protect themselves when the going gets tough or when the going gets really deep. It's why Scorpios tend to never forget anything too. They'll recall from the past and give you point blank exact accounts of when you betrayed them or when you hurt them or when this happened. We love them for it. We also can be stung by them sometimes too. On your birth chart, Virgo Rising, Scorpio is the sign that rules your third house, which in the ancient days is called the house of the goddess. And so what I really love about that sort of link when thinking about ritual, when thinking about goddess worship, when thinking about ways that we sort of relate to one another that are separate from perhaps our verbal language so much, more to do with our body language, because Scorpio is there. It's really sexy. It's really intense. And so go with me, but we're talking about a full moon in Scorpio. This feels to me like an incredible time to connect with those parts of your makeup, of your personhood. Now, I understand that not everybody has a sexuality. Not everyone has a relationship with their sexuality, or indeed has one. The aces amongst us are in full support and respect in this reading. There's a sincerity to this worship. Let's diversify the definition too. Let's think about things that are shared with one another. Let's think about the ways that we communicate. Let's think about the sanctity and the safety purported of our local environment. It's such a cross to bear for so many people at this time, in particular, the lifetime over, to find somewhere where you belong, to find a village, as it were, a local environment where you feel free enough to engage in your goddess worship, sexually or otherwise. And when it comes to topics of sexuality, when it comes to topics of the diversity of that subject, the third house is an incredible place to express oneself in those areas. It's also a place rife with oppression. So, not to trigger you in any way, but there is something about going deeper with this moon, because we can trust it. Think about it as a moon that's given you consent and that you're giving it consent to. There are many different ways that we can activate this moon. There are many different ways that we can be provided with some sense of release with this moon. Now, it's Taurus season, so the sun is over in Taurus in opposition, lighting up the moon in your goddess house, which means the sun is in the house of the gods, the house of brilliant academia and our access to our religious practices and study and travel. Lovely. What's happening right before this full moon, actually on the day that I hope to release these horoscopes, Virgo Rising, is a very specific conjunction, one that hasn't happened for some 13 years. And it's starting something. It's starting a cycle and ending the one before. I'm talking about Jupiter and I'm talking about Uranus. Now, Jupiter means hope. Jupiter means expansion. Jupiter means encouragement. And Uranus means the rebel, means revolution, means change. And so when these two come together, you can feel there's an encouragement to rebel. There's an encouragement to change things up, to revolutionize. Now, when thinking about that lofty space of the house of the gods, where Taurus is, my mind is drawn to topics around religion and religious study. My mind is drawn to topics around investment into that area. Perhaps there's been parts of your spirituality or parts of your spiritual academia that you've been gunning to learn more of. Perhaps you've been steeping yourself in a particular line of thinking, and this conjunction is going to flip the table on that. Whatever it is, it's hopeful because Jupiter's present. So it is about encouragement. It is about growth. Jupiter can be really related to the gods too. The Greeks called Jupiter Zeus. So you can see there's that size of the thing. Think about the year 2010 into 2011. That's when the last time Jupiter and Uranus came together. It was first in June of 2010, came together at the 0 degree point of Aries, and then they both were retrogrades. They both moved backwards into Pisces. They came together again in September of 2010, and then again December of 2010 into January of 2011. And so on your birth chart, Virgo rising, we're thinking about your 7th house of your relationships and your deep 8th house of commitment and bond, the way that your resources are held to other people, the revolution that's occurring around those topics. What I see, this might not sit specifically for you, but I'm going to tell you a story of how it sits for me. This looks like someone who's incredibly independent. This looks like someone who in 2010 went through an absolute rebirth and were finding themselves, finding their rebel spirit separate to perhaps the convention of relationships that they were given with way back when. They took that sort of initial blast of intensity in Aries and then they applied that revolution to the way that they would relate to other people. And over the course of 13 years, that rebel spirit has been with them. And it's come a croppers, it's come into tense aspect from time to time, but it's come back to where it began, and now it's moving ahead into your house of the gods, to your spirituality. So we rebel in all manner of different ways, and we rebel against all manner of different systems. For the skeptic amongst us to fully invest in their spirituality, that's an act of rebellion. For someone who was raised in a specific culture, a specific faith, to push back against that is also another act of rebellion in order to seek out their own, to eke out their own pathway. There's an emphasis on the spirit here. There's an emphasis on spirituality. So it's alternative routes to getting there. I'm of the mind that all pathways lead to the same place. And whoever prays with hope and with love in their heart, I believe what they're praying for. I really do. I reject and am offended by the church being used as a prop for war and for conflict and for growth and for supremacy. And we've seen countless examples of that. And this is why the 9th house can be treacherous lands, because so many of us are skeptical about those structures. But what I see here for you with this conjunction, Virgo rising, is a really hopeful, really there's room to move here. Set your sights on it now, and for the next 14 years it will take you there. I like this sort of polarity of your house of the goddess and the way in which you're going to enact ritual with this moon, the way that you're going to really allow your body to feel it, to register it. I really love that. And I love the sanctity of that act as well. That's what astrology teaches us. It's a spiritual act to make love. It's a spiritual act to be in touch with your feelings. It's a spiritual act to cry. We've been told time and time and time and time and time again that our natural state is evil. And so many of us at this time are opening our eyes to that fact, to that pain. It's being rammed right in our faces right now too. I think that this moon is going to be working as a catalyst for you, Virgo rising, to reject that word, evil. If it comes from love, if it comes from nature, if it comes from a yearning to connect and to bring about peace, then it's not evil. There might be some deeper feelings about where you belong with this moon, Virgo rising. So let's just allow it to happen. We can probably move away from this defensive battle, and I completely respect it, and I completely understand why it's there. I understand why that shield has been up and why that sort of sparring has been happening. It sort of has, you have to think a couple of steps ahead of the game these days. Deflect is what I'm feeling here. But in this very special moment, hopefully you can feel proud of yourself that through all of that conflict, conjecture, battle, you've maintained your center, which is very loving and very kind. Hopefully you can look out to your 7th house and you can see folks in there that witness you as vulnerable and beautiful and gentle, just as you always have been, and worthy of love and worthy of affection. And you've got a right to belong. So many of us have been looking for that place. The home where we can be ourselves, where we can grow, where we can relax. That's your entitlement, Virgo rising, and you will find it. The battle, the offense, the defense takes its toll, and good on you for sticking to your guns. Good on you for maintaining your softness through all of that too. And you can look forward to a safe space to land. Embryo. 3rd house can speak to our village, remember? So maybe at this full moon in Scorpio, you can feel yourself in your current village. And no matter where you are, no matter what village that is, know that it's your birthright to commune with the moon and to trust the moon and to let out what you've been holding back. Feel it. I wrote down a lot of other astrology, but that's enough for now. We can work with that for now. I will be with you to speak about the Taurus new moon in 2 weeks, and I'm actually wanting to get your opinion, Virgo rising. How are you liking my reading style? Is there more astrology that you need to know? Do you need to know the ins and outs of every moment of every day? Do you need more tarot? You're my core audience, and I love you all very much, and I'm very happy that you're here. So I want to give you more of what you like. I tend to do my research, do my study, write everything down, and then give you the reading as it comes from me. If that works for you, sick, I'll keep doing that. If you need more specifics because you're sort of really wanting to work on your own language of astrology, then let me know. I'll include more of that kind of language. It just sometimes feels freer when I don't get so clamored by the dates and things. If you're still here with me, put a scorpion in the comments, please, as well, in honor of this full moon in Scorpio. If you'd like me to read your birth chart, I draw them. They look like that. You can make your appointment with me at umaruby.com. If I have read for you before and you'd like another reading, head to the Back for More tab and you can choose a truth, growth, magic, love, or femme reading. You can choose from the menu there. Look at the images, look at the song lyrics for the reading prompts. Think about the topic. Do you need to know the truth? Do you need to know about love? Do you need growth? Do you need a little magic? Each of the readings has a journey that I've written. We sort of take ourselves to a space and time and we let it out. So have a look. That's it from me. Oh, you can tip me at buymeacoffee.com and subscribe as well if you'd like to support my work financially. That's always an option. Much love to you, Virgo rising. Chill. Go gently. And I'll speak to you very soon. I'm looking forward to this moon. I bet you can tell. Take care.